Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be informed, encouraged, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, best-selling author of the book Stay the Course, and certified leadership trainer, Dom Brightman. Be sure to check out the goods and services from every guest, as well as the host himself, yours truly. Now let the fun begin. And today on the Going North podcast, we're bringing some super special, awesome humans from around the globe. Today's another one of those special occasions, baby. It's another one of those special occasions. I got to give a shout out to the Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel Group for connecting me with this superstar today, because my goodness, we've had some folks who've given TEDx talks, folks who've created $1 million businesses and have done so many wonderful things. But this lady in particular has successfully hosted 2 successful TV shows about real estate that have aired in over 130 countries around the world, y'all. And the shows resonated with people because they're real life, because she's really a realtor with no acting skills required whatsoever. And she doesn't sugarcoat nothing. She is an award-winning woman in business who is also a charitable lady who has been through a lot and helps other folks to find their greatness through real estate. So let's give it up for the superstar, sensational Sandra Rinomato. How you doing today, Sandra?
Hey, Dom, that was a great introduction. Thank you so much. I'm super psyched to be here. I really appreciate the connection. I really appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. Especially it's a topic that's rarely covered on the show, and definitely getting more folks with diverse backgrounds. And heck, it's so diverse that I'm pretty sure I forgot probably 30 different cavities. So am I filling in any cavities I missed about you, Sandra?
Oh, you did a good job. You did a good job. I appreciate that. Got a couple other things, author and this and that, but you know what? I don't remember either. I don't focus on that stuff. I am what I am. What I am right now, it'll be different tomorrow. So
But hey, it's all good. That shows you're growing and getting better and not butter.
I like that. Oh my gosh, I like that one.
Yes, indeed. Because it's true, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the 16th anniversary since that open heart surgery, right?
Wow, you're good. That's right, it is. That was certainly an experience. I was born with a hole in my heart, an ASD, atrial septal defect. And they found it when I was about 5, but I was asymptomatic. I was totally fine. They told my parents, oh, she's going to sleep all the time and she's not going to run around like other kids. She's not going to play. She's going to have a bad appetite. Well, at 5, I was eating like man-sized meals. I was a tomboy. You couldn't get me to sit still. Like we were playing road hockey and riding bikes and all the sports. And I slept well, but I didn't sleep all day. So my parents kind of like were scratching their heads and said, is he diagnosing our kid? Because that doesn't sound like her. And it didn't really become a problem until I was, more advanced in years. And I had trouble breathing. So it had progressed into pulmonary hypertension, which was a serious problem. So what that is high pressure in your lungs, and it made it difficult to breathe deeply. So I couldn't run. I couldn't actually, by the time they diagnosed me, I couldn't walk up a flight of steps without breathing heavily. And I started asking my friends, and like if you walk up the stairs, do you breathe heavily? Like if you're carrying a basket of laundry, for example, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine then. But I wasn't. And so they diagnosed me with secondary pulmonary hypertension, which is a pretty serious disease and there's no cure for it. And I just got really lucky. I had excellent health care here in Canada. And, I live in Toronto, so we have world-class hospitals, and I had world-class doctors. And so it went to, this round table of specialists, for example, because I was an anomaly. And they're like, what are we going to do with her? Her pressures are so high. We don't think she should have surgery. And so it went to the round table, and it came back almost unanimous that I needed to have the surgery and I need to have it right away. So I did. And so my lung specialist took me upstairs by the hand, took me upstairs to meet the cardiac surgeon. And I'm like, no, 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 we can make an appointment. Don't worry about it. No, no. He dragged me there. And Dr. Cusimano said, okay, well, I have the OR booked for, this was about April 3rd. I was in there. And he says, we have the OR booked for April 23rd. And I was confused. And I said, oh, next year? He said, no. And I said, well, wait a second. That's only a few weeks away. He said, uh-huh. And I started freaking, like he could see me spinning out. And I was not prepared for this. This was open heart surgery and it was very risky. And, you hear all these stories about how you have to wait 2 years for anything, but no, he got me in. And actually it ended up being June 1st because I was just like freaking out. I'm like, no, 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 I got to get my stuff in order. And he looked at me and said, okay, that's a good idea. So we rebooked for June 1st. And then I had the surgery and you're supposed to be in and out in like 4 or 5 days, right? Especially being young. And I was in there for 2 weeks because I had complications and I'm really lucky to be alive. I tell you, I'm grateful. And whenever someone says, okay, take a deep breath, or just the word breathe or breath, I take a deep breath and I give thanks for it because it came pretty close to me not being here anymore. And, breathing is a luxury. You shouldn't take it for granted. You can breathe out, but if you can't breathe in again, you're in trouble. So yeah, that was my journey. And it was pretty wild, actually. It was a wild trip because I know the doctors, and I don't know if, some listeners might think I'm crazy, but I say this because I promised myself that if I ever met anybody that was ill, I would tell them my story. So for someone out there who might need to hear this, I hope that you will take it to heart. But I know that the doctors did everything they could and the rest was up to me. And there was a point there when I knew that I could make a decision to stay or to go. And at that point, I had met my future husband, my current husband, and his little boy, who was 3 or 4 at that time, by the time I had the surgery. And my life was great. And I wanted to stick around because I was happy. So I made the decision to stick around. And it's kind of a miracle that I'm alive, really. So I say that the doctors did everything they could, and then I had to do what I could do, because if I had chosen not to stay, I probably wouldn't be here. And I believe that. So take that with a grain of salt if you don't believe it, but I 100% believe it.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you do believe it. So congrats on 16 plus years of staying on the planet and realizing that breathing is definitely not a luxury indeed.
you know, breathing out is one thing. Breathing in, yeah, if that doesn't follow,
Yeah, because it's so true. Like it's so cliche, but it's so darn true. It's like we can't really take our lives for granted because, like yourself, growing up, tomboy swag and having these big hearty meals, and then as the advancing chronological age likes to set in, like it's like, oh crap, it's like so do y'all go through this too? And then you realize, oh crap, the doc knows more than me and my friends. Okay, all right, crap, I guess I got to go through with it.
I was in total denial, man. I wanted to hear anything except you needed to have surgery. Well, no, I mean, some of the doctors were saying it's too late for you. So luckily, the round table said, no, no, no. We want her to have the surgery. We want her to have it right away. We understand the risks, but without it, I'd be dead. So it was worth the risk.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So you mentioned tomboy swag. So did you ever see yourself where you are today when you were 13?
You know what? I didn't have any visions for myself. I never allowed myself to really dream. It's kind of a crazy thing, but I was raised in a family where, gender roles came from the 1950s in a small town in southern Italy. It was an impoverished town. It was not a wealthy town. So those gender roles were very specific. Even kids had roles, and you had to follow the rules and you had to live inside the box. So I just adopted that as this is the way life is. I didn't have to. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm saying I chose to take on those false beliefs. So I never, even though I was, quite good in school, I had honor roll marks, and I was in the advanced class and all that stuff. I didn't have faith in myself. I didn't know that I could do whatever I wanted to, and that I could actually ask myself, hey, Sandra, what do you want to do? And then life went on, and my mom said to me one day, and I don't blame her, I'm not saying it this way, but she said, get a job as a secretary and marry your boss. So I assumed that since she knew more about the world, because I was very naive, I had a very sheltered upbringing, I thought, okay, well, she knows more about the world than I do, so I guess that's what I have to do. But I procrastinated by going to university. And, that's kind of weird, because if you come from a family where I'm saying we had very traditional roles, then why did my parents pay for my tuition to go to university? Because they don't line up. And the reason why that is because it's my beliefs I'm talking about, not theirs, right? So I took on those false beliefs, and I clung to them like a life raft in a, torrent sea. It was me. It's all me. I could easily have said, hey, I could have looked at the bright side. I could have said, well, they have enough faith in me that they've offered to pay my tuition to go to university, no questions asked. But instead, I clung to that vision of me being a wife and, getting a job as a secretary, marrying my wife. Hey, no discredit to any secretaries out there. We don't even call them that anymore. That's how old I am. And if that's what you want, if that is what you want, awesome. Go for it. Do it. Live happily. But it wasn't right for me. So it was a very interesting journey for me to finally learn about my own conditioning. Like, the awareness is key here, because you could live life following that prescription that you think somebody gave you, but really the only person holding you back is you. And this awareness came to me in my 20s, and I really shook it up a bit. Like, I took a snow globe and I shook the heck out of it, right? And I kept shaking it. And I had to totally dismantle the foundation of my belief system. I had to question now everything that I had picked up. I don't want to say I was taught. I picked it up through society, through my family, through things I had seen and done. I picked up those beliefs, right? So in order to become aware, some nasty things had to happen to me. I mean, nasty, nothing really, just life, basically. Like, I had to marry the wrong guy and be miserable, and then determine that I actually was worthy of happiness. That was, that may sound ridiculous, but that was so huge for me to become aware that I was worthy. And it was really, I say, I went to school. I had good marks. I was in the advanced class. I went to work. I got a part-time job when I was like 16, and I excelled at work. So why did I have such low self-esteem? Nobody ever told me, other than my siblings were fighting and everything, oh, you're stupid, whatever. Nobody ever really told me, Sandra, you can't do that. I mean, they may have, but they also, what I'm trying to express here, and I'm doing a bad job of it, what I'm trying to express here is I could have seen all of the encouraging stuff. I could have listened to the encouraging words, but I chose to focus on the ones that were limiting. I seriously did. And I blame myself for that. But things happened in my life, and then I pat myself on the back that I was eventually able to turn that around. So now I was able to stand on my own 2 feet and say, yeah, I'm going to roll up my shirt sleeves and I am going to do this. And I was independent and I knew I was capable. So somewhere along the lines, a few seeds had been planted that allowed me to get to that part. I guess you could call me a late bloomer. But eventually I did get there. And actually, this is why I wrote the book, because that, plus I've worked in real estate for almost 25 years, and I've seen a lot of women buy their own places, but I've also seen a lot of women who had planned and saved a lot of money, like 200 grand, after tax dollars. Like, that is hard. Living in a rental, like, that's really tough, especially in a place like Toronto. Toronto is really expensive to live in. And, 150 grand, 200 grand, and focusing for years on saving enough money to buy their own places, buy their own homes, and then stopping themselves short right before the finish line. And that was baffling to me. And it wasn't just one woman. I mean, it was time after time after time, or they'd stop way before we ever got there, or they wouldn't even allow themselves to entertain the thought. And I could understand where they were coming from, because they were reacting out of fear based on false beliefs that they had chosen to take on for whatever reason. So this was really interesting to me. And I was in the fortunate position where I could take some time to do something to feed my soul. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, what do I want to do? You know what? I really want to write a book to help women, because I had, the first show was Property Virgins, and that was about first time buyers, and that went around the world. And I used to get beautiful actual cards and letters in the mail, plus emails, and wonderful, wonderful words telling me how I helped them or how the show helped them. And they were, writing in gratitude and, maybe just patting themselves on the back because they had done it. They learned a lot from the show, and then they went and they bought their own properties, and that was so satisfying. Then I left the show and I created the show By Herself, which was about single women buying property on their own. All kinds of demographics. Like, it was like women in their 20s who were single and never been married, and then there were divorcees and widows, everything, like investment properties, everything. And I started to learn more and more about the mentality of women when they go through this. I mean, one woman said to me, I would buy my own place, except I'm just worried as soon as I buy it, I'm going to meet Mr. Right. And I thought, what's the rest of the sentence? Like, so? Like, what does that mean? Like, is this 1798? Like, what year is this? What are you talking about? So that really intrigued me, because that was a young woman with old-fashioned ideas. And it floored me, actually. And I heard it time and time again, not those words exactly, but similar. And I thought, okay, what are these women afraid of? And I started to actually, remember that show Sex and the City?
Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous show, right? Well, I remember Miranda wanted to buy her own place in New York, and she's the lawyer. And they did a good job on the episode. And some of the language that was coming out, because people were giving her a hard time, like the mortgage people, like, it's just you buying this? The realtor, you're alone? You're buying this? And she's going, yeah, just me. And then she was talking to the other girls, and, they were saying, no, you shouldn't buy real estate, because one of the women said, when you own real estate and the guy doesn't, then you disrupt the sense of balance in the relationship. And then Carrie says, I think that was Charlotte that said that. And then Carrie said, yeah, basically something along the lines of, like, you totally emasculate a man if you own a place and he doesn't. And I thought, well, why the hell would you want to shrink yourself? You're going to stay in the shadows for a guy you've never even met. And you may never meet that guy. And then the question is, if you do meet that guy, is that the kind of guy you want? Or do you want somebody who's going to uplift you and grow with you and applaud you? I don't know. It was just so baffling, but it became very clear to me that those are the sentiments, those are the false beliefs that some women carry. So the book was focused totally on women. Men might find it helpful too, but the reason why I wrote about women for women is because my experience is female. And, it's also cultural background, right? My parents are off the boat from Italy. So they've got that Mediterranean way of raising children, especially girls. Well, girls are raised this way, boys are raised that way. And then I live in Canada, a great country. So I grew up with every privilege. And sometimes I feel like my problems were about as significant as the elevator taking too long to come to my floor. You know what I mean? Compared to the world's problem. But let's keep it into perspective, because if you have a belief that is holding you back from being all that you can be, then that's big. It doesn't matter that it's not that you don't have enough food to eat, or you don't, whatever horrors are out there in other places in the world and even our own countries. The reality is, if it's a big enough problem in your mind, then it's significant as far as I'm concerned, and it should be addressed. And if you think that you don't have any of these false beliefs, that in itself is a false belief. Because they're so good at cloaking themselves and we don't recognize them. So I think this awareness thing is like a daily event, or maybe multiple times throughout the day, you gain some awareness. If you're willing to, if you're willing to see it, if you're willing to see opportunities, if you're willing to take off this set of glasses and put on a different set of glasses. Do you know what I mean? Like, you see the world through your lenses, but if you take those lenses off and you put on a different lens, you see the world a different way. And so my experiences, my stories, my beliefs, how I interpreted a situation, there could be, 3 people in a situation and 4 different interpretations, maybe more, right? So I'm seeing the world through my lens. And that lens was created through my experiences and my thoughts and my beliefs. Now, if I can shift any of that, which I hope every day we shift, if you shift any of that, then you start to see things differently. And it's a beautiful thing, actually. So who I am today is not who I was a week ago, and it's not who I'm going to be a week from now. That's how I choose to live, growing all the time. And I think you do too, Tom.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. We're
Right?
positive trees giving positive shade to people in the summer, metaphorically.
Exactly.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And it's so good that you're really on that mission because it's so true and it's so needed nowadays. Because a lot of ladies are kicking butt nowadays because a lot of old beliefs are being shattered. Of course, there's still some out there that still need a lot more chipping away with the bigger pickaxe, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And really, just you being out there and just sharing your side of the story from your lens is something that a lot of folks need, like ladies included. Like, even though there are examples of wonderful folks out there kicking butt, ladies included, like there's still folks out there that still have that lack of self-confidence. And I'm glad you admitted that at the time in your teenage years that you didn't have a vision for your life at the time, because that's really something that can be hard to do for some people, because they're like, if you were raised in a certain way and then folks want to try to really just put you in this box for the rest of your life, like, hey, like, become a secretary and marry the boss, like, that is so old school. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
should
Mm-hmm.
probably go a different route, maybe be an entrepreneur and probably rise to the top of the company as far as you can go, or just become an entrepreneur. Just find your own path and create your own success from it, like your own success, not the success that other people may think success is.
Well, what's interesting is, actually my parents were entrepreneurs. So I must have picked up something from them. But the stuff I remember, the stuff I focused on was all the limiting stuff, like I said before. So I must have soaked in a lot of great stuff, seeing immigrants actually coming to Canada, not knowing the language, and like complete culture shock, and then making a fortune for themselves, working hard, working smart. I must have soaked that stuff in. But when you look back, you have selective memory, right? And so it's interesting. Like, I for sure, if I took off these glasses and put on a different set of glasses, my story would be completely different, but I'd be the same person. So there was, I mean, obviously a lot of good stuff that I learned from them as well. Absolutely. But you said uh, about the women just crushing it out there, and they are. And I saw an interesting statistic from NAR, the National Association of Realtors in the US, and it said that in 2006 almost 27% of home buyers was a single woman buying real estate on her own. Again, it could have been an investment property, could have been her dream home, her first home. A lot of that was first time buyers. And then over the years now, it has dropped down to about 18%. Now, I don't know if the housing crisis in the US had anything to do with that. I don't have the Canadian stats, sadly. It was around, 23, 24% in Canada was a single woman. So 1 in 4 buyers, let's say 1 in 4 buyers, or 1 in 5 buyers, however you want to count it, if you're doing Canada or US, was a single woman. Okay, well, that sounds normal, right? But not when you compare it to men, because only 1 in 10 in both countries has been a single man. So men are not buying real estate the way women are. Now, that to me was fascinating. It's like, what? So then people say, well, why are women buying real estate on their own? It's like, well, why wouldn't we? Like, women are like human, right?
Yes.
So the question is, why aren't men? But it is true. Why are women doing this? And I think women are looking for security. And a lot of women believe there's a glass ceiling out there with wages and salaries. So a great way to build your wealth passively is to own property, especially your own home. And, if you had bought a home in Toronto 6 years ago, you would have doubled the value of the home. So if you had bought a $300,000 place, today it would be worth about 600 grand. And when you sell a house in Canada, it's tax-free. If it's your principal residence, so the 300 grand plus whatever you pay down in your mortgage, that's all tax-free. So that's pretty amazing. You would have doubled the value of the property. So even if you only put down $20,000, it's not your 20,000 became 40. That's if you had bought stocks and bonds and you doubled your money. You didn't double your investment. You doubled the value of the house. So, I believe real estate is the best investment in the world. And I've been through a real estate market crash where I've actually lost money on property. And that was way long time ago. So after that, it was like, I was never scared to own property. And I think that's why, because I had been through the proverbial worst and survived. And I was young enough that it didn't matter. I could make more money. It left me destitute. Like I was in a bad place financially and emotionally after that, but it worked out. I made it work out. But what's interesting is if 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 home buyers is a single woman, the interesting thing is there are so many more that won't even entertain the thought and never allow themselves to try. And the ones who tried and failed, and I say fail, I mean, it's one thing to, stumble and fall, but if you quit, then that's failing. Okay. But if you don't quit, it's not failing. So you may have come up against a brick wall and you haven't figured out how to traverse it yet. That's not failing. So what about, like, for example, the women that, I worked with that saved up 6 figures after tax dollars and then stopped right before the finish line and then never allowed themselves to try again. That's heartbreaking to me. But think of the numbers of women. So if 1 in 4 is a single woman that has been successful in buying her own property, it could be a ton higher. It could be 30%, 35%. Who knows if each one of them was successful? So when I wrote the book, I thought, oh, that's great. I'm going to write a book and it's going to be self-help for women. And then I thought, wait a second. I've read a lot of awesome books. And then I put them back up on the shelf. So I said, I didn't want my book to go from self-help to shelf help. So I got to give them more support. So I created online courses. And with the online courses, you get videos. It's me talking very passionately and very quickly because I get crazy about this topic. But you can also get support from group calls. You can also get one-on-one mentoring with me, or you could just watch the videos. So whatever you're comfortable with. And I can tell you though, I just did a 90-day challenge, totally not real estate related. It's called Wild Fit. And it's all about health. And they said, oh yeah, so twice a week you're going to have group calls. And I thought, I don't want to do group calls. I don't need group calls. Oh, group calls. Come on. I don't want to do it. I was wrong, man. They were amazing because first of all, you don't know what you're going to go through. Right. So I thought this is fine. I could do this on my own, but no, it's a great system because they know you're going to stumble and fall and maybe give up because it's 90 days. That's a long time. And those group calls were essential because other people are doing the same thing as you, and other people are feeling like you, or they felt like you last week, and they can give you some encouragement and some advice, and you don't have to do it on your own. So this is why I said, not only do I want to give them an online course with videos, recorded videos, but I want to address their concerns in live calls and recorded calls as we go on. But I wanted to create a community of people going through this so that people could feel comfortable, so that people would gain more help. Because listen, there's a lot of women who don't have mentorship available to them. There's a lot of women who don't have the support from their family or their friends or their coworkers. They don't have a role model to emulate. Like, I've worked with women who have nobody in their family who has even owned property, let alone a woman who bought it on her own. And I'm talking about women from cultural backgrounds like myself, who that's not encouraged. That's actually discouraged. You stay in your parents' house until you move to your husband's house. Like, that's the way it is, right? Talk about old school. But when you say to yourself, and I know because I did this to myself my whole life, when you say to yourself, yeah, but I don't want that, I want this over here, somebody's going to say, inadvertently, they may say something that discourages you or lets you know that they don't think it's a good idea or puts fear into you. And they may not be doing it on purpose, but then there's the other group of people who are doing it on purpose for a variety of reasons, because we're all crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't want to see you succeed because you're going to make me feel bad about myself, stuff like that. I mean, so to just have a community of people where you can go and we get you, like, we totally get you. And not only are you going to learn from us, we're going to learn from you too. Because I just want this program to just get better and better and reach more and more women. So, I mean, I have made it so ridiculously affordable because I want it to get out there for women. And that's why I'm selling the book, because I don't want you to just put the book back up on the shelf, because there's some challenging things in there. There are things in that book where I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to challenge those thoughts and those beliefs that you have, because I know that's what it took for me. So in order to affect change, you've got to take action. So you're going to buy the book from me, and I'm going to get your email address, and then I'm going to help you. Whether you buy the course or not, I'm going to drip information to you so that you feel encouraged and know that you are worthy. So I called the book Homeworthy. The book is called Homeworthy. The course is called Homeworthy Masterclass. There's another one called The Woman Homebuyer's 10 Critical Steps for Success. And I'm really, really passionate. You could see my energy just went up. And I'm talking faster and louder. That's me. But I'm just very hopeful that we can affect change, and together we can be a force for change. Because, when a woman does something for herself, like when a woman goes out there and does something that somebody says, oh, you can't do that, and then you do it, you know what? You are like a beacon of light for other women that you may never meet, kids, girls who are growing up and saying, I want to be like her. Women who didn't have a role model. You are now their role model. And if you can do it, they can do it. That's how I feel about it. If I could do it, you could do it.
That's right. You can mount and do it indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's right, indeed. Love it. And it's really powerful that you're really doing that and you're really taking the all hands on deck approach by making sure the book is not just a book, but there's also other steps like with the emails, with the drips of information that's useful, some content on your YouTube page, and of course, the online course with the group coaching as well. So, a few minutes ago, you mentioned how you basically were kind of at the lowest point of your life with the whole 2008 situation with the real estate crashes. So, what helped you to really dust yourself off and get back on your feet and really probably 10x your success in a way?
It wasn't 2008 because Canada didn't have the same housing crisis. It was long before that, Dom. I am an old dog. It was 1989 when
Oh,
I bought my first place with my first husband. And Canada went into a recession, and our interest rates were like 14%. And it was a bad time. And you only lose money on real estate when you sell it lower than you bought it. So I had to, I didn't have to, I chose to, because we had divorced. And you know what? I believed, I made a conscious decision to do something based on false beliefs, and it bit me in the butt, and I lost money on it. But so if you had looked at me as an outsider, you would have said, oh my God, look at her. She was married and now she's divorced and she's broke and she's, back living with her mom. And you would have thought, wow, she's really messed up. She made a big mistake, but I didn't, because I chose that for my ultimate happiness, ultimately for my own happiness. And that was the first time in my life really where I did a major move like that, that ticked off a lot of other people. This was my life, and I finally had the courage to do something like that for myself. So while I was financially at the bottom of my barrel, at the bottom of the barrel, I was actually happier, even though it didn't look like it. I was happier because it's okay to be alone, but to be married and lonely, I could not deal. I could not deal with that. And I knew something very bad was going to happen. I was going to, make some really bad choices. So I had the courage to break the mold, right? I mean, everybody loved him. And here I was leaving him in pursuit of my own happiness. What? And I remember someone said to me, well, you're leaving him. And I told them the reasons why and how unhappy I was. And they said, well, don't you want to have a child? And I thought, really? Like, that's what you got from the story? Holy cow. And I thought, okay, we are not on the same planet, girl. Like, it took me a long time to get here, and you are not going to suck me back in. Because for the first time in my life, I was actually pursuing my own happiness. So I had learned at a younger age that if I wanted something, I had to depend on myself for it. So I was never one of those people who is going to, look for a handout. I wasn't going to just get married so a guy could support me. I wasn't that person. I was very independent. Actually, I supported his career. I worked 7 days a week to put him into his career that he wanted. And so everything that through my marriage, I started to learn that everything my family and my culture and my society had taught me. And when I say taught me, I gleaned from them. I chose to believe these things. Everything I believed was false. It didn't work. The woman, all you have to do is be a good wife and you're going to have a great life, or a good life. A good life is good enough. And the husband is, the man is going to make the money and he's going to be financially responsible and he's going to be this and that. And he wasn't. I had to make the money. I had to be financially responsible. And he wasn't supporting me emotionally. He wasn't supporting me financially. And I just, oh my gosh. So, things came to a head. And I thought, why am I here? And I'm like, I bought into their storyline and it is utter BS. So it didn't work for me. I know I gave it 100%. So it's time for me to go. And by doing that, that's when I said, I totally cracked up the foundation of everything I had learned. It took that event for me to finally say, okay, you guys, I tried it your way, and now I'm going to do it my way, like it or not. And that took a lot of courage. So I'm really, really proud of myself that I did eventually get there. And I knew I just had to do it, right? There's an expression, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I was not afraid of work. I'm a worker. I just did everything I could to support myself, and I wanted to find a new career. And I remember talking to a real estate agent I knew, and actually I called him to find me a little coffee shop. This is before Starbucks, okay? So at that time you could have a coffee shop. And I said, find me a nice little coffee shop. And he said, oh, why do you want to work so hard? I said, I don't. I said, my favorite expression is work smart, not hard. And he says, well, why don't you be a real estate agent? And I laughed because people had said that to me. You should be a realtor. I'm like, what does that even mean? And he said, why are you laughing? And he was offended, right? And like, I don't know. I never really thought about it. Like I got to put people in my car and drive them around. He goes, yeah. And then you make, you sell them a house, you make this much money. Do you know how many cappuccinos you have to sell to make that kind of money? I'm like, yeah, actually I do. Because I had done my research for the coffee shop. And he says, you know what? You're right. So I looked into it and I took the courses. I said, okay, let's see. So I took the courses and of course I passed. And So then I had my first 12 months, I surpassed all of my expectations. I was way more successful than I had anticipated being. And that was because I had this fire in my belly that I had to do it. Like, failure was not an option. I had nobody to take care of me. I had to take care of myself. And life is long. So, you've got to make money and put money aside, invest in real estate and all that stuff so that, when you're old, you have this and that, or God knows what's going to happen to you. And, God forbid you're sick, like you might have heart surgery. You know, you needed some sort of financial security, right? So I worked my butt off, and timing was great, and I was really good at it because I spent years in retail learning about human behavior. So that experience, all of those experiences, I said, prepared me for real estate. And I remember about a year and a half or 2 years into it, a friend of mine called me because I had won an award, and she goes, "You're doing so well, you must love it." I'm like, eh. She's like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, I was bored, right?" And I said, I don't know. I just I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. And she said, "Well, why? What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know yet, but I know I really want to help people." And she said, "But you are helping people." And I said, yeah, whatever. Putting a key in the door and, negotiating a contract, whatever. She goes, "No, no, 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 no." She said, "You are helping people get to the next stage in their lives, whether it's where they can start a family, or they need this new place because they're shrinking their family through divorce, or somebody passed away, or they want to sell that property so that they can take the money and start a business, or they need a property where they can run a business and live in it, or whatever it is. You're helping these people get to the next stage of their lives, and they need your help, and they need your guidance and your good advice." And I went, yeah, that's nice, whatever, thanks. And I went to bed that night, and I wasn't really hearing it because, me, I'm going to focus on the limiting beliefs. And I swear it was my very next showing. I turned around, and the couple, she was crying, and she said, "Oh my God, we found our home. Now we can start a family." And I went, okay, that's exactly what Pamela had said. And that is just bizarre. So what it did was it shifted my perception right then and there. And I became a different person. I found the joy in the job. So that allowed me to focus on helping these people transition to the next stage of their lives. And that became like, well, it's just so fulfilling for me. And I really did understand now I am helping people. I am helping people. And that allowed me to flourish even more in this job. So when you say what was the catalyst, or how did I pick myself up and dust myself off, it was hard work and keeping my um, eyes and ears open for opportunity, but also listening to what people had to say, good people, well-intentioned people. Um, like Pamela, who said, "You are helping people and this is how," or the guy that said, "Why don't you become a realtor?" I was looking, I was open to suggestion, and I was willing to try, and I was willing to work hard and make a success out of myself. I wasn't going to allow failure to happen to me. I wasn't going to sit back on my laurels and say, "I'll just meet another guy. This time it'll be a rich guy." It doesn't matter. I don't deserve love. I don't have to love the guy. No, 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 no. That's not a life. That's not a quality of life. Without knowing it, without saying it, I was looking for joy in my life, and I found it that way. I found it many other ways since then, but that was the beginning, I would say.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And you definitely worked hard because reading part of your book, it just one of my favorite parts is the fact that you built your career on being the lady who would always return calls, even when you didn't feel like it.
I know. I know. You don't want to be that guy, right? It's like, because everybody has a story when they called a realtor and the realtor didn't bother calling them back. It's like, wow. Like, do I have to beg you to take my money? Oh man. I hate bad customer service. I really do.
Heck yeah, that's right. Because folks need more customer love nowadays instead of just plain old customer service, right?
Hmm. I mean, if you're going to do a job, do it well. You know what I mean? Otherwise, do something else. Because ultimately, you're miserable when you're doing a bad job or just mediocre job. But mediocrity is normal. I hate to say it, but that's the average, like that's where the bar is set in our society, I think. Just mediocrity. But I think you should try to excel. I think you should find what you're passionate about and excel. Do it really well. It doesn't matter what it is, just do it really well. If it's one thing, if you're going to spend your life doing it, do it well. Get joy from it. Spread the joy, spread the love, right? So this that I'm doing for the women and with the women, that's totally a passion project. I don't have to do that. I've got my brokerage, my husband is selling real estate. Like, I could just continue selling real estate. But this was a path that I was led on, and I'm just loving it. I'm loving it, and I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to pursue this. You know, and that's a good place to be.
That's what I'm talking about. It's probably good with 20 O's, I bet.
You got awesome lines. I love it. Getting better, not butter. Love it. I'll give you credit. Don't worry, I'm going to use that every day, but I'll give you credit.
All right, good. The mind control is working. That's what I'm talking about. Let me stop. Sweet. So since this is far from your first rodeo, is there a question that you wish should be asked more often when you're in the guest side of the game on these interviews?
That's a good question right there. That one right there. Yeah, there's so much to cover. Like, I mean, I love to talk about this stuff, so I could go for days. My voice might give out and probably have to wake you up more than once. But I guess, no, I think that every opportunity, something comes out of it. So whatever I spoke about today, I'm hoping that even just one listener went, wow, that really resonated with me. So, because you never know what it's going to be. I mentor my agents, and it's, you think, oh, they're really going to love it when I say this, and they're really going to get excited when I say this. And they don't, but they really freak out on something else that I thought was like, really? You're freaked out over that? Okay, well, whatever. If that is, works for you, that works for me. I don't know. So hopefully just something in this conversation that we've had has resonated with someone, and hopefully inspires them, inspires you, whoever's listening out there. I hope it inspired you to take action. And you don't have to figure it out on your own. Find a role model who has done it, or come to us. Come to us. We'd love to help you. It doesn't matter where you live. It's not like hire me as your realtor. No, I only serve West End, Toronto. Like, I mean, people are listening all over the place, right? So this is why this whole medium of this technology is amazing, because anywhere in the world you can listen to this and hopefully become inspired. Like your fabulous podcast, like so much inspiration put out into the airwaves, where anyone with a device and internet can hear you and hear your podcasts and just become inspired to act and just live their true selves. That's it. I think that's what life's all about. Just live true to yourself.
Amen to that, because you definitely shared quite a few wonderful stories, and heck, even the part about your friend actually reminds you, it's like, hey, you're actually changing people's lives. Because funny enough, it actually, heck, even reminded me same way with George Foreman, kind of like with sometimes we may have an opportunity to do something like with you getting the TV show. It's like, oh, TV, like who the hell's gonna watch a TV show about freaking real estate? Like,
I know. First time buyers.
exactly, like first time buyers. It's like, really, who the heck's gonna watch this?
That's
And
exactly
it's
what I thought.
yeah, and just the fact that actually just going through with it and just really just being you, you ended up actually having success from that. So sometimes you got to do things that you may not at first think like, hey, this might not work, but ended up actually working to your advantage in thousands, if not millions of others.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Ah, yes, indeed. My pleasure indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2020, with all of your knowledge, experience, wisdom, and there was no pandemic, what advice would you give to yourself?
You are worthy. Now go out and crush it. Because I would have saved myself a lot of trouble if I had believed it then. And we are in a weird time right now. Have you ever read Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill? Old,
Yes,
old book.
ma'am.
Yeah. So when he wrote that book, it was after the Great Depression. And the words that he uses, I read it with my agents. We were reading it every Monday. The words that he uses are like he was writing it today, you know? And I just think that the innovation that's coming, I mean, sure, the pandemic is a horrible situation. I'm certainly not making light of it. And I know that many people have suffered and they've lost lives and they've lost loved ones and they've lost businesses and they're just feeling destitute. But from those feelings of desperation, you can turn it around because there's so much opportunity. You just have to be open to seeing the opportunities that are around you, right? So if you read that book and you think, wow, he could have written that this morning, because the wealth shifted and we're there again. We are there again. So you can't take anything for granted, that's for sure. Just look for the opportunities, know that you are worthy, and find something you love to do and do it well. Yeah, that's it. Pretty simple, eh? Sounds so simple when you say it like that, but boy, it could be hard.
You ain't kidding. It's true. It's sometimes a daily thing. It's like bathing. It's a daily thing.
Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, that's right, folks. You crushed it like a soda can, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
I can't wait to listen to this. I got to write this stuff down. Dumb isms.
Yeah, it's gonna be eventually a book down the road of some of the
Oh,
crazy
that'd
stuff that
be
comes out my
great.
mouth.
That'd be awesome. I look forward to reading it.
Heck yeah, especially since you mentioned you're a tomboy. I can just picture you in Timberland boots and the whole hard hat and the overalls just crushing a soda can. It's like, yeah, you're not the only one with guns.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. So, for those who want to keep in contact for the Super Sandra gun show, metaphorically speaking, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Check out my website, sandrarinomato.com. I know it's long and you might misspell it. But if you Google me first, you'll get the spelling of my name. I'm all over Google. sandrarinomato.com for reaching out to me. Also, right now I'm running those specials as a launch of the book and the courses. So if you go to, and this one's really long, singlewomenbuyinghomes.com, singlewomenbuyinghomes.com, you can pick up the book and then you can have a choice of which course, which level of support you want. And if not, then just check me out on Facebook, Sandra Rinomato, or Homeworthy Book. And, I'll be doing some more Facebook Lives. You can post your questions there. You can reach out. I'd be so happy to help you at whatever level you need me to. I love, love, love to hear your stories. I love to learn from you. And I would love it if you learned from me or just got inspired. So that's how to reach out to me. I'm all over. I'm like Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Just figure out how to spell my name and you'll find me.
Oh, don't worry. It'll be easy to find. You're going to put all the info in the show notes so they can get some more of your magical wares.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Hey, it's been great to chat with you. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. I appreciate you too. And Indeed. So there you have it, folks. Head over to sandrarinomato.com or head over to Single Women Buying Homes and all the wonderful stuff in the show notes. Buy some copies of Sandra's books. Heck, even check her out on Facebook Live. She's going to be growing those like a wonderful tree, one of those 100-year-old trees where it's going to be so high, giving so much positive shade in the summer to you. So keep in contact with her and all that she is doing indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop, Sandra?
You got this. Go for it, babe. You got this.
You just got done listening to another powerful, power packed episode of the Going North podcast. I hope you really enjoyed what you heard. You made it all the way to the end. You get to hear all sorts of goodness. I was the best, but you just got done hearing some goodness. Go check out the guest stuff. It's all in the show notes on the website, donbrightman.com, and also reach out to those that you've just heard as well. And keep rocking it, because you yourself are phenomenal for making it this far, and keep going north.